Thank you so much for that. And of course, the tipping of the iceberg is that Austrian anthem. We can all be seated now. Thank you very much. I want to appreciate that we are having here His Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Christian Fellner, the Austrian ambassador to Kenya, and of course, he's accompanied by Professor Sylvia Kritzinger from the University of Vienna, Austria. And of course, we have Ms. Dantos, who is also with them. This is our entourage from the Austrian Embassy. And today we are having the pleasures, Daystar University, to host this very significant event. Of course, with this lecture today, we hope that Daystar, we can deepen our intellectual engagement, and of course promoting democratic governance, conversations around policy making and so forth. We also hope that this audience here and experience from this lecture, we can strengthen our academic ties between Austria and Daystar University, and also enrich academic community. And I'll be seeing many members of the academic faculty coming in. Please let us engage, let us be very interactive. At this moment, I want to invite our chaplaincy, Reverend Siole. As it is Daystar, we start every event with a devotion and thanksgiving to God. And so, Reverend Siole, karibu.
Thank you, Dr. Radoli. Good morning, all our guests and Daystar community. Good morning, and praise God. Yes, indeed, we have every reason to thank God for giving us some bit of warmth this morning. It's been quite chilly, and we're grateful for some bit of sunshine today, and we're grateful for life. So as we get into our devotion this morning, I just want to say that it is a beautiful thing to acknowledge God in all our ways. Even as a Daystar community, every event that we get to undertake, we acknowledge God. And so even in this forum, we will begin by acknowledging God, who grants us ability to do all things. Now, this morning, as we get into the activities of today in this forum, I know it's a lot to do with diplomacy and international relations. And as a lay person in this field, I just got to check the definition of diplomacy in the encyclopedia. And this is what I got. Diplomacy is the art and practice of conducting negotiations, building relationships, and managing communications between nations or groups. And on an everyday level, it refers to using tact and skill to handle people without causing offense. Now you're wondering, how does this have to do with a Christian devotion? Now it has everything to do with our day-to-day interactions as Christians, as guided by the scripture that we are going to look at today from a text in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. And it reads from the NIV version, yes, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." Now that is one of the nuggets from the Bible, guiding us on how to carry out our communications every day so that we can have a lot of relationships that are right and direct us towards peace. And you know, it's usually said, or I've heard severally, that a diplomat is someone who can tell you to go to hell in such a polite way that you actually look forward to the trip. I don't know how true that is, but that is what is said about diplomats. and our guests will be hearing from them, and we'll hear if they have that quality. So I thank God that in Daystar, we have so many students that are undertaking studies in international relations and peace and conflict transformation, anything to do with democracy and peace building towards peace. I know our students are well trained, well instructed not to go around telling people go to hell. And so I know that they will be telling people or directing people towards heaven. And so our scripture today, Paul reminding the believers in Colossus that let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. In this semester, our theme for our Bible study as a community is transforming grace. And we continue to meet the word grace, even when it comes to conversations this morning. And as we look at what Paul was instructing the believers is that actually your words are so important. Even today, our words are the way we communicate. Our words and the way we communicate them is very important. And they should impact our conversations for the better, even as we bring a different flavor to our interactions and building up others. Now, it's not just about the words. It's not just words. But what is so important about the words we speak should be the content and the tone of our words. They should impact those around us for better. And especially if the other group or the other individual is having a slightly different perspective from yours, or even a totally different worldview from yours, then your words, you should mind the content. You should be careful about the tone of your words. And so there are two things there we see: full of grace, seasoned with salt. So we know that salt does a number of things in our bodies. Salt adds flavor, and salt also preserves things from decaying or rotting. So when you're walking or talking with people, communicating with people, it's very important that your words bring out the best flavor from that group, from that community, from that in that individual, so that the relationships that are of interest there do not decay, do not rot. And we know when this happens, then we have a lot of conflict, we have a lot of wars and all the things that are nasty that we try to avoid. And so, seasoning our speech or our words with salt just means delivering hard truths with such undeniable grace and kindness that people are eager to cooperate. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 24 says, "Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones." Just as salt has healing properties, our words should bring healing and even goodness, encouraging its hearers and pointing them to the one who is vital for life, our Lord Jesus Christ. Allow me to pray as we get on. Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning with grateful hearts. Our hearts are filled with thanksgiving for granting us a new day, for granting us a warm day, for granting us life, for granting us to be gathered together here at Daystar, Nairobi campus, even for this wonderful forum that we are looking ahead to interact and gain knowledge in various areas that we have an intention of receiving this day. We thank you, Lord, for everyone that is gathered here. And thank you for the team that has organized this event. Thank you for the commitment and devotion that they have put in putting up and planning this meeting. Lord God Almighty, as we acknowledge you in this event, we ask that you make it to be successful, very interactive, and that everyone will leave having added value to their conversations, value to their interactions, value to their studies, and value to their walk, and even their work. We thank you for our guests, Lord, as they come with the wealth of wisdom and knowledge that you have entrusted to them. May you bless them, may you guide them, may you use them more and more, even for your glory and honor. We continue to thank you for every activity we're going to undertake today. May you be honored, may you be glorified. We thank you that when we come to the end of this day, all glory, honor, and praise shall be back unto thee. For this is our prayer this morning, trusting and believing in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And we all say, Amen. The Lord God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Reverend Siole. A round of applause to appreciate Reverend Siole, always keeping our spiritual nurture in check. I now want to welcome Dr. Justus Marcia, who is the Associate Dean, School of Arts and Social Sciences, and Head of Department Peace and International Studies, to give us a welcome to this event. Dr. Marcia.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lydia Radoli, the Director, Open, Distance and E-Learning, who is our event mover today. Let's appreciate her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All protocols observed. Our chief guest is Excellency Dr. Christian Fellner, the outgoing Austrian Ambassador to Kenya. Professor Sylvia, Professor for Methods in the Social Sciences, Department of Government, University of Vienna, Austria. Professor Francis Onditi, Associate Professor of Structural Conflictology and Senior Research Associate, University of Johannesburg, South Africa. Distinguished guests, members of Senate who are present, faculty members, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure and distinct honor to warmly welcome you all to Daystar University for this special public lecture, marking the tour of duty exit, a lecture of His Excellency Dr. Christian Fellner, the outgoing Austrian Ambassador to Kenya. Today, we gather not only to host a distinguished diplomat at the conclusion of an exemplary diplomatic assignment, but also to celebrate a remarkable legacy of service, partnership, and friendship between the Republic of Austria and the Republic of Kenya. Throughout his tenure, His Excellency has played a significant role in strengthening bilateral relations, promoting dialogue, encouraging cooperation, and advancing mutual understanding between our two nations. While we bid him a farewell as he concludes his diplomatic mission in Kenya, we also celebrate the enduring impact of his leadership, statesmanship, and unwavering commitment to international cooperation. We are equally privileged to welcome two internationally acclaimed scholars whose presence greatly enriches today's occasion. Professor Sylvia, Professor for Methods in the Social Sciences at the Department of Government, University of Vienna, Austria, is a distinguished academic whose pioneering work in democratic governance, political behavior, and public opinion research has earned international recognition. We are also honored to welcome Professor Francis Onditi, Associate Professor of Structural Conflictology and Senior Research Associate at the University of Johannesburg, South Africa, whose distinguished scholarship in peace building, conflict transformation, structural conflictology, and international security continues to shape policy and academic discourse across Africa and beyond. On behalf of our Vice Chancellor, the University Management Board, the School of Arts and Social Sciences, the Department of Peace and International Studies, and the Daystar University community, I extend our heartfelt welcome to each one of you. Your presence today is a great honor to our university, and we sincerely thank you for joining us for this memorable and intellectually enriching occasion. Your Excellency, we are especially grateful that despite the many demands associated with concluding your diplomatic mission, you accepted our invitation. It is indeed a great privilege that one of your final public engagement in Kenya is with Daystar University. Your willingness to share your diplomatic experiences, reflections, and insights with our students and faculty is a lasting gift that will inspire future diplomats, policymakers, scholars, peace builders, and global leaders. For Daystar University, today's lecture reflects our unwavering commitment to providing transformative, globally relevant education. We believe that true learning extends beyond the classroom and that meaningful engagement with distinguished diplomats, policymakers, practitioners, and internationally renowned scholars enriches the educational experience of our students. Such interactions bridge the gap between theory and practice while preparing graduates who are equipped to serve effectively in an increasingly interconnected world. To our students, particularly those pursuing international relations, diplomacy, peace and conflict studies, political sciences, governance, development studies, and related disciplines, today's lecture presents a rare and invaluable learning opportunity. You have the privilege of hearing directly from an accomplished outgoing ambassador whose diplomatic career offers profound lessons in leadership, negotiation, international coordination, peace building, public service, and global citizenship. I encourage you to listen attentively and thoughtfully and thoughtful questions and take full advantage of the unique opportunity to learn from distinguished practitioners and scholars. As a university, we highly value partnerships with diplomatic missions, international organizations, and leading universities around the world because such collaborations enrich teaching, research, innovation, and student development. We therefore look forward to strengthening our engagement with the Embassy of Austria, University of Vienna, and the University of Johannesburg through future public lectures, visiting scholars, programs, faculty and student exchanges, collaborative research, mentorship initiatives, internship opportunities where feasible, and other strategic academic partnerships. We are confident that these collaborations will expand global opportunities for our students and faculty while strengthening international academic cooperation. Your Excellency, although today marks the conclusion of your diplomatic assignment in Kenya, we sincerely hope it does not mark the end of your relationship with the Daystar University. Rather, we view this occasion as the beginning of an enduring friendship and a lasting academic partnership. Your legacy will continue to inspire us, and our doors will always remain open to welcome you back to Daystar University. To Professor Sylvia Krizinger and Professor Francis Onditi, we are deeply grateful for honoring our invitation. Your participation significantly enriches today's dialogue, and we look forward to sustained scholarly engagement that will strengthen research, academic excellence, innovations, and international collaboration between our institutions. To all our distinguished guests, thank you for honoring our invitation. Your presence affirms the importance of dialogue, diplomacy, scholarship, and international cooperation in shaping a more peaceful, just, and prosperous world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct privilege and honor to officially welcome you all to this important public lecture. May today's discussions inspire fresh thinking, deepen international understanding, strengthen academic and diplomatic partnerships, and encourage all of us to continue working together for peace, sustainable development, human dignity, and global prosperity. Thank you. May God bless you all. May God bless the Republic of Austria and the Republic of Kenya as we continue to strengthen the enduring bonds of friendship, diplomacy, academic excellence, and international cooperation between our nations and institutions. May our partnerships continue to flourish, our networks expand, and our shared commitment to peace, knowledge, innovation, and global understanding grow from strength to strength for the benefit of future generations. And may God richly bless Daystar University. Thank you.
A round of applause for our Associate Dean, School of Arts and Social Sciences, HOD, International Peace Studies, Dr. Mwasia. That was amazing introduction and welcome. We are advised that our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Research, will find us going. And so I have the honor to invite the next speaker, and I'm going to do a very brief introduction with his profile so that we know who will be speaking to us. I want to introduce to us Ambassador, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Christian Fellner. And Dr. Christian Fellner, Ambassador, took his post as an ambassador to Kenya in 2018. He is also the permanent representative to the United Nations and the UN Habitat. We also know that from here, his embassy covers 10 countries in the region as well as the United Nations. Ambassador Fellner studies psychology, law, and economics, and teaches psychology of politics at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. And then we know that during his career, he spent 2 decades in African countries and was ambassador to Nigeria from 2005 to 2009. Ambassador Fellner is particularly interested in intercultural psychology and in gender studies. Please, let's put our hands together as we welcome His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Christian Fellner to share his remarks with us.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful. Thank you very much for this warm welcome. Associate Dean, Professor Musia, professors, doctors, dear students, all protocols observed, as you say in this country, a wonderful good morning. And it is a wonderful good morning, and I want to say, unfortunately the singers are not here, but I was really, really impressed. That's really, I was impressed. My mom is 99 years old, and she's a musicologist. And I was singing when I was a boy. I was at the very famous Vienna Boys Choir. And I was really impressed by the performance of these young people. I need to have this videotape of the song. Now, yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I'm impressed about what you know about us. Yes, indeed, 10 countries and the United Nations, so quite something. We are coming to that, but very importantly, I want to draw your attention to this banner. The European Union, which Austria is a member of, and which everybody who, every university student should know about, at least in parts, is celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relations with Kenya, and we are integrating, in particular, the scientific cooperation in the program of these 50 years. It's a great honor for me to be here today. And I was asked to give a speech on my tenure in Kenya of 8 years, which is actually very long for a diplomat. Normally it's 4 years. I got 2 tenures. I don't know why. And it would be quite complex to do that. So I tried to figure out what you people might be interested in. I remember the words of the chaplain, Reverend. What I'm telling my students, Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, don't judge in order not to be judged. I think that that's the first and most important sentence of the Bible for diplomats. You have to learn to understand, not to understand, but at least to accept that other people are thinking differently from yourself, right? And a little bit sarcastically, I would say diplomats is what comes before the war and after the war. Because we are the ones who are actually working as long as there is peace. And in order to be able to do that, we have to have respect of the other person we are working with. So allow me to start with a quote from the very famous Jewish philosopher Martin Buber, who said that people become an I through a thou. In other words, we discover who we are in our relationships with others and through the feedback they give us. Now let me try to help you understand yourself in the world by giving my interpretation of what I observe. As an outsider, I'm the feedback you people can get. I observed an extremely dynamic society, or should I say extremely dynamic societies, changing faster than maybe even bearable for many people. I once invited a young lady. She was working for the United Nations, so she had quite some money. And she came with a BMW 4-wheel drive to my house in a very special color. And she told me when she went to the village with the car, her grandmother said, "Oh, with this car, you're never going to find a husband." 2 generations. And it's difficult for them to understand each other. grandma doesn't have a feeling for a young lady who has her own income, buys her own car, and will probably get married to somebody who even might be from a different ethnical group. So things are changing. They are changing fast. To give you an idea, 20 years ago, there were less than 100,000 students in Kenyan universities. Now that's more than 600,000. You have a population of 50 million plus. In the last 20 years, 5 million people were academically trained in this country. I saw roads built. I saw boys and girls in school. And I saw a number of these 5 million who take to the streets because they want another future. Dialogue will be necessary between different groups in society because different groups want different things, which is normal. And that's what politics is about. So the question I'm asking is, can the development even be faster in this country? And now I'm telling you something which I wouldn't have liked to hear when I was 22. Be a little bit patient. I didn't like that, but I can only say one day, you are on a good way. People are happier in Kenya than elsewhere in the world. By the way, psychological science found out that the people who are singing or doing music are more happy than the average. You live in a collectivist society. Families are important for you. Religion. Attitude towards life. You are in a society that tends to be happier than other societies. The Germans are the richest children in Europe, and they are the most depressed. But there are many different kinds of Kenyans, and things change drastically over time. So society changes. People need to understand each other in this country. So you have, to a certain degree, you have to become diplomats. You have to try to understand the other side, to put yourself into the other shoes, and don't judge. So let me talk for a moment on Kenya in the international environment. In the international sphere, Kenya is seen as a pillar of peace in the region. And the world sees you and hears you and relies on you. I don't exaggerate. Who of you knows the name Ambassador Martin Kimani? Martin Kimani, permanent representative to the United Nations in 2022, made a speech in the Security Council, which was clicked millions and millions of times. I quote, "Rather than form nations that looked ever backwards with dangerous nostalgia, we choose to look forward. We agreed that we would settle for the borders that we inherited, but we would still pursue continental political, economic, and legal integration." This speech is widely regarded as one of the most powerful statements delivered in the United Nations Security Council before the outbreak of the war of Russia against the Ukraine. Politicians, diplomats, and media commentators particularly praised its historical comparison between the colonial borders in Africa and Russia's historical territorial claims against Ukraine. So I would say, and I mean that honestly, not just because I'm nice as a diplomat, you can be proud of your country. Finally, let me tell you quickly what our embassy does. We cover 10 countries, as was already said, and the United Nations. So basically, this is impossible, right? I have an undoable job. In order to solve that problem of my daily life, When I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, what does my taxpayer, what does my country need from me? And then I can set priorities. And the European Union and we have priority on inter alia scientific cooperation. When I started my career, we had scholarships for Africans to learn a few things. Basic studies. You would do a bachelor's degree in Vienna. We don't have that anymore because you don't need it. You are well trained as you are here. But now we have to go the next step. And I'm not lying. Please ask my friend, Professor Sylvia. I quote a Chinese. Those European students, they are so lazy, mind the yellow danger. This being said, you people are very ambitious, and you are going to outsmart them. I warn my European friends, work with the Africans. You have to face them in future. So this is one of the reasons why here today we have invited a great expert like Professor Sylvia Kritzinger to give a guest lecture on state-of-the-art research. With this lecture, we want to encourage you to learn modern research techniques. And I'm not going to insult anybody by saying in universities in Kenya, from their profile, you can Google that in the internet, mostly teaching institutions. We do know that Kenyans rarely publish in international sphere. But that can be done. You just have to learn the methods that are necessary in order to get something published in a relevant journal. It's not quantum science, can be done. And this is what we want to achieve in the next step with cooperation with Kenyan universities to work more on scientific methods, and in this case, in the political field, you will have a real expert in scientific methodology. Enjoy the lecture. I'm open for questions after the event. Thank you.
We can do it a Daystar way to appreciate His Excellency the Ambassador for that very insightful remarks. Can we give him another round of applause, even as the choir comes in? And a few things we have noted in these brief remarks is, first, don't judge so that you do not be judged. And of course, he's quoting the scripture there. And of course, you remind us about Martin Buber's quote, people become who they are through the eyes of others. So that's very critical for me as a scholar of communication, because feedback is very important to be able to make an assessment. And I emphasize what you touch on EU-Kenya relations, especially on scientific collaborations. I think all of us who are in the academic forums, especially for the conference tomorrow, this is what we are also emphasizing. And then your choir is here again to give us a number. And please make sure that these records reach the ambassador before he leaves. Choir, please. Thank you very much. The University Choir, a round of applause for the University Choir as they leave the stage. Of course, Kenya yetu hakuna matata. What you've heard about matata is not about Kenya. Kenya, we know hakuna matata. And as we transition to the next stage, which is the key of this session, and I want to welcome the next speaker. We've heard her mentioned. She is going to give us a guest lecture on democratic representation in liberal democracy, Professor Sylvia Kritzinger. We know her as a professor for methods in the social sciences at the Department of Government, University of Vienna, Austria. She's one of the principal investigators of the Austrian National Election Studies, the UTNES, responsible for the demand side and the project leader of the project on representation in Europe. Additionally, she was involved in the 7th framework programs of the European Commission, PREDU and ELECDEM. And also, we are informed that Professor Sylvia is also a researcher. And this really excited me because in the introduction, we got to know that she's a researcher, yes, in the areas of political science. She obtained her PhD in political science at the University of Vienna and then held a postdoc position at the Trinity College Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies. She was visiting professor at the Danube University, Krems, the University of Podgorica in Montenegro, then the Kiel University and Trinity College, Dublin. Her research focuses on political behavior and electoral research, democratic representation, and political participation, and quantitative methodology. This one I'm excited because I'm a social scientist. I want to see how we do quantitative research. Please appreciate her, and as she comes to the podium, could we have her slides rolling at this particular point? Technical team, Professor. Please let us welcome Professor as she comes on the stage. Keep on clapping until she reaches the podium.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really a great honor to speak here. I have already been introduced in a very nice manner. I'm a researcher in political science, especially political behavioralism. And within political behavioralism, one of the main features that we're looking into are citizens. We want to understand what the citizens think, what are their attitudes, what is their behavior. But in order to do so, we have to do a lot of methodological research and also use those methods in order to collect the data that we then can analyze. So today I decided to present you with something that is really keen to my research, that is central in order to be able to do all the research that I normally do. Namely, I would like to tell you a little bit about election studies, how we're doing election studies. And it has already been mentioned that I'm the principal investigator of the Austrian National Election Study, so therefore I have a long experience in how to run those election studies. But let me first start with a quote by Leduc and his co-authors about what are elections. And why do we actually care about those elections? Why should we really look into those ones? And we do know that elections are important for liberal democracies. And he actually says it's not only the importance that is going together with elections, but it's really the lifeblood. Because then he says, what is all connected with elections? It generates public debate. Just think about the campaigning. During campaigning period up to the elections, there are a lot of discussions going on. And then the elections, depending what is the outcome of the election, this election will shape the public agenda, the policy agenda. You have the possibility to select the representatives, because there are several parties you can choose from. So therefore, you select the representatives that are representing you in the next 4 or 5 years, depending on the legislative period in your country. And it determines, therefore, also the composition of the parliaments. It depends how many politicians from one party are sitting in the parliament, of another party are sitting in the parliament, and so on. And depending on the majorities in the parliament, we then, of course, also have different government compositions, because those governments do normally need to have a majority in the parliament to be able to form governments. So you see, elections are pretty important when it comes to liberal democracies. So elections are crucial moments in life of democracy. And they have 2 functions that we are probably not that aware of. The first function is an ex post function, because there has been something in the past, right, that we can evaluate, something that we can judge. And therefore, that is really the moment where citizens can hold their political leaders accountable. They can look into what they have done in the past, they can reward them, or they can sanction them. They can reward them if they were happy with what they were doing, or they can sanction them if they were unhappy with what they were doing. This is the ex post function. Then we have the ex ante function, namely that we are looking into the future in the sense the citizens want to choose whom they would like to have as a representative representing them in the next 4 or 5 years. So they choose those ones who make the political decisions. And as you probably can already see, there might be a tension in this ex post and ex ante function. The ex post can sanction a political leader that you may not want, but at the same time, the same political leader may have the best program for the future. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sanction this leader, not voting for them, even though he or she may be the best person to represent you in the future? So there is a tension. Is it the past that you take into account, or is it the future that you would like to take into account? Let's move on. And here we see already, once we're moving into the political sphere, into politicians, political parties, that parties and politicians have a great interest in elections because it's critical for them. It's critical for their careers. Will they still have a post after the election? Will they be elected into the parliament? Will they be able to stand as a minister or whatever in the next government? So for politicians, these are really crucial moments. And also, it's not only about being elected into the parliament, it's also about, will I have a majority in order to be able to go into the government? Because just being in the parliament doesn't mean that you're also in the government. So therefore, as a party, as a politician, you would like to make sure that your party is having enough votes, is having enough seats in order to actually be able to form the next government. And then there is something else that we sometimes tend to forget. Elections are really also determining the fate of the nations, right? Depending on which government is in place, depending on which party has a majority, it may take a different turn. And therefore, that's also something to take into consideration. Then it depends what is happening after the election. Will there be stability in the sense that there will be the same party in government? Sometimes we are also saying that stability is not always a good thing, because it can also mean stagnation, nothing moving forward, more of the same continuing. Or will there be a change in the sense that all of a sudden there is a new government, all of a sudden there is a new policy agenda that is putting forward, and therefore elections are also crucial in this moment. Is it stability, stagnation versus change? Good. So now you have probably seen why I invest my entire research time in doing election studies, because with election studies we can really look into this puzzle. What is going on? Why are voters voting the way they are voting? Why are politicians behaving the way they are behaving? Why are there certain campaign ads out there and not others? Why are they fighting in a certain way? And what is the control of the media? And that's exactly what I would like to show you a little bit more in the next 10 minutes. So, election studies take really into account political parties, take into account media, they take into account voters, and we collect data on all those actors. We want to know something about voter perceptions, their attitudes, their behaviors. This is what we call the demand side. But we also would like to know something about what is the media doing. And let me tell you immediately, when I'm talking about the media, I'm not only talking about the traditional media that probably was still out there 10, 15 years ago, but we're also taking into account the social media and their way of communicating, their content and so on. And then the last actor in this game of the election is, of course, the supply side, the politicians, the parties, which are also important in order to somehow get an idea of this complex process of how voters, parties, and media interact. Let me go a little bit closer into the demand side. What is it that we're doing in order to get to the voters? We're running surveys. We're running representative surveys of citizens which are eligible to vote. And this is very important. There is no need in an election study to run a survey on citizens who cannot vote. So this means citizens below a certain age or citizens not having the citizenship of a country are not going to be included in this election study. In Austria, for example, we are having voting at 16, so everyone above the age of 16 can already vote. They are all included in our election studies. And there are two ways of running an election study. The first one is a cross-sectional design, in the sense that at one particular moment in time, we're asking people about their perception, attitudes, behaviors, and so on, at one particular moment in time. However, there is another way of doing it, and I can only tell you, please do it this way. There is a longitudinal design as well, in the sense that we're asking the same people several times over the campaign period, but also after the election, about their perception, attitudes, and behaviors. And the same people, when we're asking the same people, we call this study the panel design. If we're asking different people, then we call it the trend design, in the sense that there are different people asked at different moments in times, and then we're just taking aggregates of their perception, attitudes, and behaviors. And what we're doing there is then measuring public perception, attitudes, and voting behavior. And with this little box on the side, I just wanted to somehow give you also visualization of what's going on. So the unit of observation in election studies is, of course, voters. And these are those little squares that you can see here. If we only ask them at one moment in time, then we have a cross-sectional design. If we're actually taking the time dimension into account, then we have a longitudinal design as such. So what are we going to measure? And there are only some concepts that we're going to measure. There are many more. As you see here, we have collected over 1,000 variables. This means over 1,000 concepts in our election studies. And here is therefore only an exemplary list. We're asking about the social structure, age, gender, socioeconomic income of the person itself, but also of the household. Then we're asking about psychological traits, and here you see the abbreviation SDO, which means nothing else than social dominance orientation, in the sense whether people believe that there are hierarchies in our society or not. And we do know that there are different social dominance orientation perceptions, not only within a country, but also between countries, that in certain countries the social dominance orientation is very flat, that people do not believe in hierarchies, in power structures, while in other countries these hierarchies are considered as a very strong mechanism that determine, of course, also political attitudes and, most importantly, political behavior. Voting for certain parties they would normally not vote if social dominance orientations would be very flat. We asked them about ideology, party affiliation, issue competition, issue salience. I will come back to that in a moment, about whether they turn out to vote, and finally, which party they are going to vote for. And in Austria, we do normally have coalitions in the sense that there is not only one party forming a government, but normally there are two parties, if not three parties, forming a government. And there we ask the citizens then, which coalitions would you prefer? And then we ask also knowledge question, wanting to know how much do people actually know about politics. So this is what we're trying to do. This is the funnel of causality that we're using in election studies. And you see that at the beginning, we have the economic structure, the social divisions, historical legacies, which influence then also the group loyalties, the value orientations of citizens, which then influence which party people consider as the most appropriate for them, the party attachment, which of course is influenced by friends, but it's also influenced by the performance of the political actors, the governments, and so on. And finally, we have these short-term factors which are influenced by everything that comes before, which is the issue opinions, the campaigns, the candidate image, and so on. And taking this all together finally influences vote choice. So you can see how complicated it is, even though you may turn out at election day, go into the ballot box and then tick a box. There is a lot of stuff going on in your life before you actually come up with a certain vote choice. And this is exactly what we're trying to capture with our surveys in order to understand why do you vote the way you're voting? And why don't you vote for something, another politician, another party, and so on. And the answer to that lays somewhere in between about group loyalty, party attachments, and so on. This is exactly what we did in Austria. So you can see our longitudinal design. We started with our survey collection in 2017, and then ran until 2025. We had altogether 24 waves in the sense that we asked the same people over a period of 8 years on a regular basis the same questions to see whether they changed and how they changed. And so we have 4 parliamentary elections, 4 parliamentary elections in there, and then also 2 European Parliament elections. You may are aware of the fact that we have European Parliament elections in Austria as well, for the European Union, which are working slightly different than the national elections. What can we do with that? I just show you one example. We have more and more voters who decide very, very late in the campaign, actually sometimes only on election day, whom to vote for. And we call them the late deciders. And you see in Austria in 2019, we had over 30% of voters who decided on the day of election whom to vote for. And we would like to understand with our election study, where do they come from? What have they done before? What have they voted for in 2017? And what did they actually do then the last moment? And you can see here the gray stuff here. These are the non-voters. These are the voters who did not know whom to vote in 2017, who did not vote in 2017, and only then, in the last moment in 2019, decided to vote for a party, and most of them then moved to the government to one of the government parties, which is the People's Party. Most of them stayed non-voters, and so on and so forth. But what is more, we can also take all the 4 elections into account and can capture, by having such an election study, how do voters move. So we do see which party loses, and actually also which party loses to whom. So we can see, for example, the Social Democrats, the red ones, are losing, well, some of them stay with the same party, but they are losing to all the other parties. And when you move along the lines, along the time component, you see that they lose even more voters to the other parties, as these red lines show us, showing us also why this party is losing. and to which party this party is losing, and why actually nowadays the Social Democratic Party is a party which is smaller than it used to be. Okay, just very quickly let me show you a little bit what we're doing with regards to supply side data. We collect all kinds of textual data on party manifesto, press releases, party websites, ads, leader statement. We run a candidate survey. That means that we're asking each single candidate running in a campaign a couple of questions. We track their social media profiles, both from the politicians and the parties, and then we use large language models to analyze them. And this you see then on the next page, that we used to use manual coding. So a lot of people, if you can move one slide forward. So a lot of people sitting there coding the text. Now we do that with large language models, and we automated run all the text analysis. But that's not all. We are also having, sorry, I don't see it. A media study that is also taking all the news media into account. So why is it that we look into this integrated design? And I showcase you this with an issue that we call issue voting. Issue voting means that those issues which are important, salient to people, are probably driving people to vote for a certain party. And if a certain issue is important to a voter, they will look out for the party which is best able to handle this issue that is important for them. So the idea, the theoretical notion is that issue salience and issue competence for a voter is determining their vote choice. And we can capture that with election data before the election and after the election. But, and here now you see why the integrated design is so important. Where is issue salience coming from? Where is issue competence coming from? It's not that a person is waking up in the morning and says, oh, this is my most important issue, and I think party A is the most competent party to deal with it. No, actually it comes from the media. It comes from the campaigning. And that's the reason why we need to look into the media, why we need to look into the campaign efforts of political parties in order to understand why certain issues are becoming important for voters and drive their vote choice. And if we're not looking into the media, if we're not looking into the campaign, we would not know that. And that's exactly why we ask a lot of questions in our questionnaire in order to know exactly which media people do consume on social media, on TV, on radio. We do know what they read, what they were exposed to, and can therefore then the content of the media connect to the voter and therefore run then the statistical analysis. Last slide on that is then the integration with the supply side, that we are also then taking into account campaign questions. Have voters been in contact with parties, with politicians? Had they been discussing with parties and politicians? Because we do know from our research that if a person gets in contact with a politician or with the party of a certain politician, he or she is more likely to change the vote choice towards the party that they have been contacted with. So therefore it's important for us as researchers to know by whom have they been contacted, and actually did that change their voting behavior before and after the election. Let me conclude. In case you're interested to learn more about this data that I've just shown you in a very quick manner, there is an archive called the Austrian Social Science Data Archive. Actually, all the European countries do have data archives. They are in a ERIC, a European research infrastructure frame, and the Austrian data is in the Austrian Social Science Data Archive. And let me tell you something, the data is for free. You can download it. So if you go here and you want to download the data, there are a couple of clicks. It probably takes you 5 minutes to download it and play around with it. We also have created a dashboard, so you can use the variables and see how the variables develop over time. So therefore, I invite you to somehow use the data, play around with it, and also get familiar with the type of variables that we are normally using. If you're interested in a more comparative perspective, not only the Austrian one, there is the European Social Survey. Also, this data is freely available. If we continue, we can go to the World Value Survey. Also, this data is freely available. If you can go to the next slide. Oh, the Eurobarometer comes first, and then the next one is the World Value Survey. And if you go a little bit further down, the next one, World Value Survey. Again, here you have the DOI, where you can download the data right away. And with this, I thank you very much, and looking forward to receiving any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we are going to have a plenary session where we will interact with this presentation. Thank you so much, Professor, for that. But there is somebody that is important that is going to help us to understand the presentation that Professor Sylvia has just made. And I think for me it's important because we would like also to understand the local context, especially the African context. When Ambassador was speaking earlier, we were challenged in the sense that African scholars are not publishing on international journals. And Professor Francis, I think we have a task here. And I know you have done a lot of inroads in research yourself. So Professor Onditi is going to help us to understand this context. Context is the discussant for this presentation. But again, as we do this, very key things or issues that have emerged, the positioning of media in terms of election and how that influences elections, the choice of media for the voters, also political conditions. And what I saw, very importantly, your friends, your peers, could also influence the way you perceive elections. And for scholars and researchers in this room, we have been told there is available data, so we have to be alert and see how we are going to apply that. So allow me again to introduce Professor Francis Onditi, Associate Professor of Structural Conflictology and Senior Research Fellow at Qatar, South Africa Center for Peace and Intercultural Understanding, Faculty of Humanities, University of Johannesburg, South Africa, and he has served as Associate Professor and Head of Department, School of International Relations and Diplomacy, Riara University, Nairobi. In 2019, Professor Onditi was awarded the prestigious AISA Fellowship by the South African, let me just get that, AISA Fellowship by South African Human Sciences Research Council, a very prestigious fellowship that in 2022, he was ranked among the world's top 2% scientists and researchers of the year. Can we just appreciate that? Even as I introduced to you, Professor, listed in the Stanford University, USA, having authored and edited 7 major volumes and over 100 articles and book chapters. In 2023, how many of us here scholars have reached even quarter of that? We are duly challenged. He was awarded the Erasmus Mundus Global Teaching Fellowship at Leipzig University in Germany. And also he's a member of the editorial board, Alternatives, Global, Local, and Political SAGE. Professor Onditi is the founding principal investigator in the Conflictology Lab. I had that word today, conflictology. Developing and testing theories with empirical data, modeling solution to conflict situations, and conducting quasi-experimental and longitudinal studies of the question of closeness, centrality, and the geometry of social network in the evolution of conflict in society. In other words, what he's saying is doing data, using data, both qualitative data, to be able to interpret the issue or the construct of conflict. He has invented several models and theoretical frameworks, including the dominatarian theory of regional integration that you will help us understand, Prof. However, as a student of social sciences and a passionate communication scholar, some of these methodologies will be what we'd like to share with you. Please give Professor Onditi a round of applause as he comes to the stage to speak to us. That conflictology is his own model, and if you are in Daystar, would say is an innovation that needs to be copyrighted. Thank you so much, Professor. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Na umekuja kama professor. The pens and the old notes are all here. Thank you. Welcome, Professor.
I am humbled. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, MC, and the entire community. This is the first time I'm coming here, but that doesn't mean that I don't know people here. I know quite colleagues here. Dr. Muasia, I've been with him. We have worked together. I know Professor Philip Njoguna, a good friend. We worked with him many years ago at the National Defense College, and many other people who work here, distinguished people, you know. Really, Daystar University is one of the few universities that are on trajectory, and I want to make this, I'm not a prophet, but I'm saying in a manner that is very positive, that it is a university to watch in the coming days, because you are making inroads, and keep up. I have a very small task here, just to reflect on what my two colleagues have presented, but before that, I just want to echo that I have known Dr. Ambassador Fellner for some time, for quite a number of years. I spent about 10 years at Riara University as the acting dean and head of department for the School of Diplomacy. I left there this year, you know, but within that period, we had done quite a lot in terms of what Dr. Muasia is actually translating here. I mentioned this morning when I was meeting them that doctors train physicians and diplomats should train future diplomats. That has always been my principle. And I think Dr. Muasia is keeping that quite well and doing it in the practice. Thank you very much, Dr. Muasia, and for building these young people. If I meet randomly somebody on the street and they're interested in studying in diplomacy and IR, I think my first option would be here and other places that we have also placed our fingers. So thank you very much for the invitation, Daystar University. Thank you, thank you. As I said in the beginning, this is my first time to come here physically and to interact with you. I think the warm welcome that was received in the morning was unparalleled. So as I was introduced, currently I'm affiliated to a center, you know, South Africa Qatar Center at the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. 60% of my work is research, 30% is seeing students, and about 10 or 20% is supervision. That is what I do. So most of the time, you'll find either I'm conducting research that is required by my university for ranking and other things, or I am talking or consulting with the majority of people like you, students, either supervising them or talking to them so that they can become, you know, better diplomats, you know, in future and all that. I will begin with Dr. Ambassador's, what we call the valedictory address. And indeed, it was a short but a very incisive valedictory address that he has delivered here. And by the way, Daystar University is privileged because usually such speeches are delivered in corridors of state, all right? Or maybe somewhere else. Actually, my first option was to have this at University of Nairobi, but I realized that they are on recess because, then we decided, all right, the next best place would be Daystar. So we must kind of count ourselves as very, very privileged because such kind of address, you rarely get them in such spaces of academy. You will always get them in corridors of state, either in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or other places that diplomats would find their place. So my role is not to regurgitate or to repeat what my colleagues have said. I will raise a few questions, all right? So that they form the basis of scholars, students, and anybody else to reflect upon the stay of Ambassador in this part of the world. And of course, the good professor from Vienna. And thank you, Prof, for doing a good job. That is great. I think one of the recommendations I would have before I jump into it is a comparative, comparative studies, collaborating with the scholars in the Global South to see how these things can be elaborated and reflected upon in different ways. The first aspect is, the diplomatic skill. And the question comes here, are these skills just for diplomats? I think that was the very important component of Ambassador's valedictory. Do we just need, do diplomatic skills only for diplomats? All right? I think you can have different answers, but from where I stand, these skills can be pulled down to serve anybody. And that's what the ambassador was very clear that, you may need these skills in your day-to-day life. How you conduct yourself, how you present yourself, matters a lot. And it speaks a lot about your personality, but also the organization, the country, or whatever representation that you are making. And so, in my view, which I share also in his presentation, would be diplomatic skills are not confined just for diplomats. All people in the society would need them. Professionals need them in different aspects, in business, in hospitality, in medical field, in all aspects, okay? People need these skills so that they can become better people. And this concept or this aspect ties very closely with the other concept that the ambassador mentioned, very important, which is patriotism. How then do you build a patriotic individual personality in you? All right? How do you make sure that everything that you speak is positive about your state? And the ambassador is very positive about the future of Africa. Kenya, of course, and East Africa being the loci where he has worked, it speaks volume that people would see a lot of potential in African states, in the people in this part of the world. All right? And I think a combination of our cultural heritage as a nation with your diplomatic personalities would be very, very, very important in building a patriotic nation or a patriotic personality in you so that we can be able to move forward. And the bottom line here is that Africa has a brighter future. All right? I think that was very, very, very critical. But where is the place of science diplomacy? What he's calling the scientific cooperation. Where do we see science diplomacy? And I want to challenge Dr. Mwasia and the team and the community of Daystar. If you haven't, and I know you are doing very many great things, science diplomacy is a very, very, very important area. I remember 5 years ago, when I finished my fellowship at the Human Science Research Council in South Africa, one of the components I carried in my bag while I was coming back to Nairobi, where I used to work at Daystar, was the Science Diplomacy Conference. We were among the first people to create or have that conference that was based on research that was done by colleagues at the Human Science Research Council in South Africa, across Africa, all the way from West Africa, East Africa, North, South. Now, we put all these ideas together, and the question was, how can we use science to advance the Pan-African ideals? How can Daystar use science? And when I talk about science, I don't mean space science. I mean science in all aspects. Social science, natural science, applied science, in all aspects, all right? How do we use this knowledge generated in Africa and the African cultural heritage in, in building African ideals? When the world is moving away, or when Africa is moving away from togetherness, when people are being told, go home, go back to where you came from, we don't need you here, blah, blah, all manner of things, I think students of diplomacy and other people who sit under a distinguished university like Daystar, they can build up a different perspective. And this perspective that is coming out of this valedictory, the speech, it's speaking to what kind of personality we would want to be, so that we build, we build on the African ideals that were established many, many years ago by our forerunners, okay? Because when you look at the world and narrow down to Africa, you see glimpses. You don't see the unity that Nyerere talked about. You don't see the unity that Kenyatta talked about, Kwame Nkrumah, and many others that did. What you are seeing is disintegration, kind of, all right? But that is not the end of it, okay? There is an opportunity for us to redeem, and especially if you take these messages quite seriously in terms of African ideals. And I think one of the channels can be science diplomacy. And when I talk about science diplomacy, I also mean cooperation, global South, global North cooperation. And I think at some point, wanting to make a recommendation to Daystar and maybe to our good professor from Vienna is how do we expand her research so that we try to bring out comparatives. What is it that, because the variables that she's really measuring well from the global North may not be the same variables that we want to measure here in Africa. For example, maybe just for your information, Prof, one of the major variable in African politics is ethnicity, and especially Kenya. And so that variable may not be very, very common in Europe, but it's very, very instrumental here. So that when you are designing whatever study on election, you really have to look at how is ethnicity a factor? How is it influencing the behavior of voters? I know in the US, for example, when they use the Bayesian tool, or the IBM Watson, what they call the IBM Watson tool, they sometimes look at the name, your second name, and your second name would speak where you come from, whether you come from Texas or you come from California or Los Angeles. And then from that first name, you can be able to tabulate and see how people are voting. And that can tell you a lot of stories. Here, we don't necessarily use that first name. Ethnicity is a very important factor. And I think a comparative kind of studies would really be interesting for political scientists like her. What is the role of AI in and the digital space in diplomacy? I think that is a very important question. When I used to mention this all the time, when I'm sitting with the diplomats or aspiring diplomats, people start to shiver a bit, saying, okay, so I'm not going to be posted in Brazil or in Paris, because people like traveling, people like going to places, people like going to other countries. So when you say that we want to stop people going, we don't want to have representation in Vienna, for example, we can have our diplomats doing their job from here in Nairobi. Some people don't feel good. But you see, if you look at it in terms of the cost effectiveness, Look at it in terms of even how people are going to be more efficient. When diplomacy is done from distance, all right? I don't have to sit in Vienna for me to mobilize business opportunities in Austria, isn't it? I don't have to be seated in DRC when technology can tell me, GPS can tell me all the resources and all the business opportunities that are in that country. Then I put them together. I use the big data science to crunch this data into some kind of communication. And then I give it to my president or my PS or my CS, tell them that these are the role of opportunities in DRC. All right? So if we want to establish a steel manufacturing company in DRC, and I am the diplomat in that country, this is the kind of opportunities, or I can even conduct risk assessment, strength, weaknesses, and I present this, and a decision will be made at State House for a business to be established in DRC. So do I need to be in DRC? Young people here, this is what I used to tell my young students. Do you really need to be seated in DRC? You can comfortably sit here and map out opportunities in DRC, can't you? You can, isn't it? You will have saved a lot of money for your country. You can count how many diplomats are sent to all these countries. You can imagine how many political officers and many other people, psychologists, whatever, intelligence officers, all right? Do we still even need intelligence officers with the AI? In my view, I don't think so. But I know I can rub shoulders with some people, but that has always been my thinking, that if I were to advise the whoever, it would be a simple thing, that can we enhance the infrastructure for AI and train these young people who are very savvy on technology, and they will become diplomats, isn't it? Yeah, you will still be called a diplomat. Your name? Yeah, you will still be called Ambassador Dalmas, isn't it? But you are not in DRC wasting Kenyan money or wasting Tanzanian money, no. You will be seated here with your AI, your digital technologies, GPS, and whatever, and be able to advise your governments on business opportunities in Tanzania, in Zambia, or whatever country you want to. So that is a question that came out of, in my view, coming out of Ambassador's presentation, and the future of diplomacy, without representation is something that we need to begin to think about very, very seriously. And if such an idea can emerge from a university like Daystar, why not? And create infrastructure, create intellectual architecture around it, and present such ideas to the president or to whoever, because every country would want to achieve efficiency of resources. So such ideas can really make a difference, all right? And the skies are the limit. Now, as I finalize, coming to Professor Sylvia, I think there are maybe 2 or 3 things that come out, when she makes her presentation. And I think some of them I've already touched on. One of the recommendations before I even pose my questions would be, let's find a way of having some kind of comparative studies between Austria and Kenya, and looking at the different variables that, the contextual differences that occur between the 2 countries. There's things that in the global south they emphasize so much, as opposed to the global north. There are certain salient things that, for example, contextualization of some of those tools that we have talked about, it's really an issue. Because sometimes, the critics of liberal democracy have always said that one of the worst assumptions that exist in liberal democracy is that we assume that everybody is equal. Yeah. Everybody is equal. We also assume that people's wealth and power is the same, which is not the case. We also assume so much that the resources that are existing, or the ability of person A to make decision and person B to make decision on political aspect are the same. They are never the same, especially in the global south. In Africa, for example, the very weak people may not really have the machinery. They may not have the resources to mobilize and bring everybody together, yet they may have the best ideas to lead the country. But because they don't have the resources, those who may not really be the best, they have the resources, they can mobilize, they have the wealth, they have all these networks, they put everything together, and I can tell you even the best president that would be can't be because of that. Now, those nuances and differences are the ones that makes a comparative study between global north, global south, a very important aspect. On accountability, how do you contextualize the tools that we use for accountability? There is something that some people call scorecard. I don't know, maybe Prof will give a view on that. You know, the scorecard, so that every time you use some science to evaluate your leaders, you tell them, in your manifesto you said you're going to do A, B, C, D. How much have you done? Without heckling them, without making noise. You just do, you bring profile and show them what they have done and what they have not done. We don't do that so much in this country, isn't it? We make noise, but we don't do that. Because, and this is what I used to challenge even my students, that when I took the leadership to guide you, I promised I'm going to do ABCD. And I want you to put me to account. For example, if I told you I'll be bringing 3 ambassadors to speak to you because I want you to become diplomats, at the end of the semester, I have brought none. Please fire me. Yeah, fire me. Just go and tell the vice chancellor or whoever is the head of the institution, this man is not working, and get me out. Every semester and every time I used to speak to young students when they're joining, that was my speech. Because I cannot tell you I'm going to do this, and then at the end of the semester I have done none. That is deception. Now, the same can be translated to national politics, isn't it? That you have to put these people to account, but not noise, not heckling. No, use the science that a professor is trying to demonstrate here. And one of the tools that people use is a scorecard. But my question is, some of the good tools that are coming from elsewhere, the question has always been how to contextualize them, isn't it? So that one, it can make sense in the local context, but 2, so that they can be operational. That's a question that we can grapple with as we move forward. Coalitions in Austria, that's an interesting idea. I wrote an article some years back on consortialism. And I think when we were doing that, it was based on my work I did with the South Sudan involving CPA and government officials in mediation and other processes in that country. So out of that, we were the people behind the curtain in terms of research and advisory and all that. I was able to put together teams, and we did a special issue. And I think one of the questions in that was, does concessionalism work? Concessionalism is like this thing that happens in Kenya every time there's election. Some people come together and they form a group of government, or they call it what? A coalition government, isn't it? Yeah, or in some other places they would form coalitions before. I think in Germany they form after election. In Kenya we try, but we don't have structures. Now this could be a very good opportunity to structuralize or to make it systematic. When we do research and you have enough data, we can then advise the government, rather than hiding under the carpet of handshake and all these terminologies they use, why don't you just formalize this thing called coalition, isn't it? So that we don't have parties competing against each other. We have coalitions. Yeah? But it comes with its own limitations and so on and so forth, concessional kind of alliances. And then on your models, Prof, the question is, I like the issue, the issue-based election and all that, but the question is, whose issue matters? I mean, matter. Whose issue or whose idea really matter in electoral process or in an electoral ecosystem? Okay? We talked about wealth. we talked about inequalities, and we talked about the assumptions that liberal democracy makes, isn't it? Especially in reference to Africa or Global South, all right? And this is just building into that. I have this question that nobody has answered. I mean, whose voice really matter here? Is it those who have the wealth, the resources, and money, and all the networks? Or is these common people who want to really make the change, all right? If we can answer that question, then I think we're okay. But also, tied to that is what is the role of media in framing? Either framing the development agenda or framing electoral process. Very, very important. Media can be very tricky, right? They are supposed to be checks and balances, but I mean, all of you will agree with me. I know Daystar produces the best media. I think I knew Daystar as one of the best universities known for media and communication. No doubt about it. They have produced some of the best media personalities. And I think this question, our MC, you are in the field of, it's something you need to really encourage your students to really investigate on. How the external factors can influence the media to actually drop down their tools. They are no longer doing what they're supposed to do, isn't it? And so then who is the voice for the voiceless, isn't it? Because the media is a professional standing, and so when they speak, nobody will take it personal. All right? And therefore, they have the authenticity, they have the qualifications and everything that deserves them to do that. So they can speak for the voiceless, okay? But when they drop that and they become to do things that you see happen in this country about media, then they are not even reporting, actually. They are reporting when they are told what to report these days. I hope you know that, young people. Yeah, I hope you know that. They are reporting what they are being told to report. So this one, don't. Don't. I have to be safe. I need a job. And that's why perhaps, I don't want to sound controversial, but most of the time you will see most of them have gotten steady jobs in the recent past. It's not bad to get a job. I mean, it's good to get a job, but be a bit skeptical and observe how they are getting. They are very good, nice presenters, and then the next minute, they are a directorate, either in the county or in the office of XYZ, and so on and so forth, isn't it? It's because when they were reporting, they left some things behind and they reported what somebody needed. So those are the questions that I had for this presentation, and I hope we can take this debate to another level moving forward. And I want to say thank you very much for the ambassador and professor for this very, very, very eye-opening presentation. I think this is just the beginning. We may want to move forward to other things, okay? As she comes, I wanted to share with you, just show you some of the books that might make sense to most of you. And if you come across them, you students, please feel free. The first one is on diplomacy, okay? You can look for it. It's a handbook for diplomacy. I think he really inspired this. He didn't contribute, but my conversation some years back with him inspired this. And we put together colleagues across the globe to put up this, the first book on the Palgrave Handbook of Diplomatic Thought and Practice in Digital Age. That's why I was talking about, do we really need diplomats in every country? I mean, ideas are here on how that can be done. And then the issue, those who do other studies on violence against women in Africa, this was based on my experience on my tour at the UN, based on my work at the UN some years back. And then this was also based on my work at the UN and especially in South African regions. On gender inequalities in some of these spaces. Those who do this kind of cross-cutting studies, please, you can access these books on different levels. And I want to say thank you very much for listening, and great. Okay.
Thank you very much. Prof, you can use the stairs. We don't want you to injure your leg. Your knowledge and conflictology still needs a sound space to land on. Thank you so much for that presentation. Can we give a hearty round of applause to Professor Nditi? Indeed, he has helped us to understand the context of the valedictory exit lecture and also special complimentary lecture by Professor Krissinger here. I don't want to elaborate further because you're going to have a question and answer session, but we were waiting for Daystar to arrive, and Daystar has arrived. And we must introduce Daystar. Allow me to welcome our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Research and Student Affairs, Professor. I will introduce Professor Samuel Moreithi as he comes. He is our Deputy DVC where he provides strategic leadership in academic affairs, research, innovation, quality assurance, and student development. He's an associate professor of management. He has previously served as director of academic affairs and director of ODAL. He holds a PhD in management and has supervised over 100 postgraduate students. Please clap for Professor Moreithi, even as he's come to speak to us. Professor, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Radoli. And at this, let me say sorry, or pole in Kiswahili, for our not being here at the beginning with another function in Adhiriva. We started at 6:30. We thought it would end on time. Many activities. Adhiriva is the main campus. And so we had so many, we thought we'd be here. But then when I'm coming, there were 3 accidents on the road. So again, I got tied up there. So just want to apologize. But at the same time, I want to appreciate our guests and also our chief guests, His Excellency Dr. Christian Fellner, Ambassador of the Republic of Austria to Kenya, and also our guest lecturer, Professor Sylvia Kristiger, and also our friend and our brother, Professor Francis Oditi, for coming this morning and even for addressing our student. Let me also say that I'm grateful. I want to appreciate the student, especially from International Relations Program, and also from the School of Arts and Social Science, and other students, and also our guests who have attended this morning. Much appreciation to the acting dean, Dr. Referent Justus Musia, the patron, and who has been very, very active. I say that this is a man that is talented in this area. How he gets diplomats, I don't know. But last semester, we had how many? Diplomat day? We had 5, 5 diplomats in Adhiriva. We had them from morning to about 3. And the previous, I think he has also made me to become international, because in all those cases, I usually attend and I give my speech. So we want to appreciate him. Let's clap for him. And also appreciate our guests this morning. So on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, who is in Adhiriva again, we are doing a groundbreaking for our hostel. And we are doing it right now for about 1,000 hostels. Students should celebrate that. And that's occasion again. We've been having a problem with accommodation for a long time, and so we want to address that. So he sent his greetings and I say that he's happy and very proud that you came, but he also felt very bad that he was also not able to come. And so I told him, and let me come and represent you. So I don't know whether I'm able to present him or myself, but whatever the case, the VC is presented, and Daystar University, again, is directed, is a Christian university. I don't know how much Dr. Musia talked about the university, but this is a Christian university where we are driven by the 3 ethos: excellence, transformation, and servant leadership. These are ethos and values that we expect to see from our students. Currently, we have a population of about 8,000 students and growing, because in 2019 we were at 3,500. So, Prof, you are right that Daystar is becoming a university to reckon with. We have grown to 8,000 from 2019. By the end of this year, we are planning to get to about 9,000 or 9,000 plus, especially with our September intake. Could be the fastest growing university in this country. Again, we have many schools. The one that relates to us, he talked about it. One of them is School of Communication, School of Business, School of Nursing, School of Law. Those are the last two are schools that have really grown very, very fast. And one that relates to Professor Sylvia is research. We have Director of Research, Innovation, Commercialization, and Entrepreneurship. I was looking at your profile and I realized that, wow, if I talk about research, I think I will be a baby in your feet. So it will be good. So we have about 40 nationalities in the university with about 600 students. And again, looking forward to many collaborations. Already we have collaborations with the European countries, Finland, Netherlands, Germany, England. We have a lot of, and really look forward to we can develop one with Austria, especially University of Vienna. I'm a student of history, so I know Vienna very well, and it's how it developed. So other American, Asia, India, all over, we have a big project with the Foster, Erasmus, about over 70 million worth of projects. We have about 11 universities. 3 of them are European. One of them is VU in Netherlands, and also VU in Netherlands, and another one is Slovenia, and also we are working with Spain. So those are areas that we are thinking of, we are working with for the last 2 years now, a project that will come to an end in 2028. So we are doing well. But you know, when I was thinking about, I don't know how many minutes I'm given, if I combine mine and the one for the VC, I can be here for, but anyway, I will be short. But I was thinking about the challenge that you've posed to us, and even what your country has posed to us. Austria is a very small country of about 9 million members. The population is 9 million, to be specific, 9.2. But you know, this is a country the size of, it can fit in Kenya 7 times. I think that's the way I can explain it better. It can fit in Kenya 7 times. But do you know the country's GDP? GDP per capita income is 45,700 euros. And per capita income, that is what we call the average per person, is about 38,100 euros. Let me put it in simple words so that we understand. If you are to divide Austria money or wealth to the 9 million people, each one of them will get 5.6 million per year. Kenya shillings. I'm just translating to Kenya shillings. In Kenya, which is 7 times the size of Austria, our GDP per capita is only $2,714, which is really about 350,000 Kenya shillings. Are you ashamed of ourselves? Are we? A country that's so small that the country is the 5th largest economy in EU. Yeah. Us. I don't know what we are going to say about ourselves. You know, this is a country, Kenya is gifted in many ways. God has given us the ocean. Austria is landlocked, surrounded by 8 countries. So they can't go far. They are locked. 70% of the country is mountains, the Alpine mountain. I did that in my geography. 70% is mountains. Here we have rivers going to Lake Victoria, others going to where? Indian Ocean. We have lakes. We have land. We have also arid land. ask yourself, what are we doing with that land? Much of our time is political bickering. You know, who will get to power? But power to do what? To lead Kenya or to cater for our stomachs? And this is not a Kenyan problem, guys. It's an African problem. I'm happy that the ambassador, I think, I don't know why he doesn't have a Kenyan name. We should give him one. Because he has worked in Gabon, he has worked in Ethiopia, he has worked in Nigeria, he has worked in Egypt. Yes? Not Egypt. Yes? You have been a negotiator, you are something. Yeah. Yes? Yes, negotiating for UNITAG. So he knows very much about Africa. Is that true? But I also, for the students, please, I want to learn from him. Because when you look at his education career, the kind of education he has, you'll be surprised that he has studied law, he has studied diplomacy, he has studied so many things about in this world. He has psychology. So we have a psychology major. School of Psychology. We can say he has been there. He has studied economics. He has been there. He has studied law. He's been there. Then he specialized in cooperative development cooperation and international law. Pigia him a coffee. I'm raising all these to challenge us because we are satisfied with only one degree. We are looking forward to finish your education, get a job, and the next thing is what? Get married. And some of you are getting confused by the beauty and handsomeness of some of the people, and you might forget your life goal. I can see some people are smiling, and others looking at me with very funny eyes. I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about those who are ambitious. But I also want to talk about, because we have, Daystar is 60% ladies or female students. And so, our sister Sylvia Kisjaf is a professor from University of Vienna. And by the way, you challenged me a lot because, guess what? Those who are lecturers, we are struggling with the research. I don't know what is your citation level. If we were to tell you to come here and speak about your citation, do you know how much she has? Her citation is 3,727 as per this morning. Yes. I index that one. I 10 index 66. A specialized in research method. I think our VC would be very happy because he's a professor of research method. So I think we need to connect her with our professor so that they can talk. And we have just launched MSc in research methods. And I also welcome the three professors really to join the university, Daystar University, to really co-teach. This is an online program, so it can be taught across, and we can easily learn from you. Professor Oditi, again, thank you. I saw about 70 books that you published. 70 articles? Over 100. 70 books. 7 books. Can you hear the challenge? Yes. So for me, as on behalf of the university, it's really to call for collaboration, and we can collaborate in many areas. We can collaborate in research, we can collaborate in teaching, student exchange, faculty exchange, especially with the Vienna University. I think we have a lot to learn. It's a relationship that I would aspire to build, and the three of you stand a better chance to connect us through the school and also through my office. Thank you very much for the presentation and the good topic, because from what I've heard and from the messages that really I've seen and heard, it's really the love of Africa. And you have Africa at heart, and this is a continent that we are really struggling, because I would say the African leadership is in crisis. If many of you would agree, it's in crisis. We don't know where we are going, and if the current leadership across Africa is what will lead us, we may not know where we are going even in the future. We have no ideology, and what we've done is just copy our colonizers' manuscript. And that's what we've been duplicating on a yearly basis. When the African leaders met in 1963 in Addis Ababa, they had great hopes of this continent to eradicate poverty, ensure everybody is educated, and to put the Africa on the development map. When the leaders met in 2013 to celebrate 50 years, they duplicated the same manuscript, the same things that were mentioned, and the same promises that were done in 1963. And they promised to eradicate poverty, education, to improve education, and to bring development in this continent. 13 years later, I've not seen any change. I don't know whether you've seen. The young people could be, and I believe you are the future. Please don't copy what has been copied in the last 60 years. Develop your own script for the development of Africa. Universities and scholars, you have a responsibility not just to research, but to go beyond research and put action to the research that is out there. That's what Daystar is doing by changing the model of education from the general teaching to what we call problem-based learning, to ensure that the education you get is very practical, and also have student leaders, like the president, I can see Madam President Faith Beatrice is here, taking the student for induction so that they can take their position, not only in the university, but also nationally. So I want to appreciate everyone, especially our guests, for coming. And again, on behalf of the VC, thank you very much for coming. And this is our continent. Let me remind you, we have no other home. This is our home. We destroy our home, we stay in a destroyed home. We build our home, we live in a better home. That's a challenge I leave with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Moreithi. We are going to appreciate him with the 5 factorial. Let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. Thank you so much, Professor, and you've done an amazing thing, because when our ambassador stood up here, he brought the context of his ambassadorial journey and his position in his office and what that has done. But Professor Sylvia then comes and articulates research in the sense of European framing and how we can also take advantage of that, also insisting that there are potentials with availability of data, free of charge, that we can take advantage as scholars. But then again, we hear Professor Nditi raising a lot of questions, and the questions he's raising are about how are we doing an election, whom are we voting for, whose voices are being represented, the question of the media, and I'm seeing ethical questions within the media. And of course, for me, it points back to Daystar University. Which media practitioners are we training? Because we are known as the biggest university in Kenya that trains excellent media. But Prof. Moreithi, you've done justice by bringing us back home and saying this is our nation, this is Africa, this is our home. So if we destroy it with bad politics, and you started by we are busy politicking, and you're saying if we destroy this nation with bad politics, we have nowhere else to go. So this has been a full circle in the sense that we came from the Austrian experience, but emphasizing on the need of scholars' research to use empirical data-based evidence to be able to help the politicians to make decisions, but also questioning contextual issues, ethics, ethnicity, media spaces, and also reminding us that we have a challenge. Yes, we have the opportunity, but we have to work. That context, my dear participants in this forum, is what brings us to question and answer session, but we only have 2 chances. For those who are burning questions, 2 chances. We have a very short question and answer section. The microphones should be rolling by this time. After that, I'll be inviting Beatrice Faith, our president, student leader president, to give the vote of thanks. Then we are going to have the choir coming in after that. And then after that, we go for a photo shoot. And the School of Arts and Social Sciences is saying hot lunch will be served after that, but not before my 2 questions. Who is the first? Students of diplomacy. Yes, there goes the first question.
Thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kamal. Without protocol team itself, I will go direct to my question. You have a SDG 10, which is reduced inequality, and SDG 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions. I believe this discussion can come at a greater time when we are only remaining, maybe say 12 months till the general election, 9 August 2027. So this is my question. And it will go straight to Professor Sylvia. In an era of declining public trust in institutions, how can liberal democracies strengthen democratic representation while ensuring that marginalized voices are genuinely included? So that is my question. Thank you.
So the question of liberal democracies in the realm of marginalized voices, and you're talking about representation, that question goes to Professor Kissinger. Can we take all the questions so that we have responses once and we wind this up? Yes, this microphone, running microphone. And if you're young, you can run for another microphone here.
Good afternoon. Okay, for my question is, in light of emerging global challenges such as climate change, migration, cybersecurity, and peace building, what opportunities exist for Kenya and Austria to deepen their cooperation and contribute to sustainable global solutions?
Question on migration, opportunities in Kenya to expand the global aspirations. So migration, opportunities, and global migration. Whom did you direct your question to?
The panel in general.
Panel in general, the speakers in general, including Professor Moreithi here. Send a question here. Let's have those 3 and have responses after that. Okay, good afternoon. My name is Mohammed. I just have a remark for Professor Moreithi concerning the AI diplomacy. Professor, I'd like to react to your comments on AI, whether we should be very diplomatic to various countries because it's a waste of resources and money. So, how could you say that human beings, we are social? Yeah, in as much as we have AI, it's the one that has been created by human beings. So, I feel like it's still important to deploy the diplomats in various countries because now there are so many issues that you can't deal with artificial intelligence. Remember, the AI is created by humans, so it's bound to make mistakes. And so not only business opportunities are the ones that you can negotiate when you're in your country. We also need that human part, socialize with other countries. Yeah, for better negotiation. Thank you. That was a comment, but also a challenge to Professor here. I almost come from the same school in the sense that, yes, we know AI, constructive ethical use in AI vis-a-vis human cues, especially human communication cues, how that can enable AI. But let's hear from Professor Sylvia. You ready? The 2 responses. And
Yeah, thank you for the question. You touched on something really important, because what I could not get into is that declining trust in institutions as well as declining satisfaction in democracy is something that we're facing in liberal democracies in Western Europe and in Europe altogether. So this is a main issue, and it's not only about marginalized groups, or to a certain extent also marginalized groups as well, but what we do see that especially marginalized groups or groups which socioeconomically are not too well off are very much captured by populism. I don't know whether you're familiar with the concept of populism, but it means that there are political actors out there which tell citizens that life is easy. But life is not easy, especially politics, economics, and stuff like that is hugely complicated. And what they're telling the citizens is to say that, well, you are the leaders because you're the citizens in democracies, and there is a bad elite out there which is doing harm to you. Vote for us and everything will be fine, right? However, not telling these people that in the end, the world is much more complex. So we do face, on the one hand, a decline in trust in institutions, and also a decline in satisfaction in democracy. And at the other hand, we do face populist actors increasing in power, which tell citizens that everything can solve in a very easy manner. And if these two things talk together, then we're really facing a problem for democracies. We're facing problems for liberal democracies, and we do see that then certain political actors are voted for that are trying to destroy democracy. I cannot go more into that because time is running out, but you have mentioned that before, that on my website you can find my curriculum, and you will find on each of my publications a DOI number. And I publish completely open access. This means you can get access to each and single of those articles. And I invite you to read one article which is about the loser's consent that has been published just a couple of months ago, where I really look into this aspect that you were mentioning about how populism is destroying trust in democracy and also satisfaction with the institutions that we do have. And it's a huge issue, and so learn from what we have done wrong in order to do it better in your country.
So picking up from these last words of Professor Silvia, yes, learn from what we have messed up in Europe or America. You have to, of course, adapt the methods. You have to adapt what you learn from us. I mean, I personally can't say much about Africa because having been here for 2 decades, I know that I don't know much about Africa. But you people know yourself, your situations, and you can learn methods, and then, I mean, you're smart. You're going to adapt that to your environment and your questions. Now, the question Professor Silvia just tried to answer is worth a semester of at the university, so it's not that easy. I'm also going to try to answer the question which was addressed basically to me, that is on cooperation. You framed it in climate change and other formats. Now, my first caveat would be, do not mix too many issues into one pot. Of course, cooperation is a good thing, and then look at the issues. But for example, when it comes to climate change, Kenya has a big advantage. There's a migration from other areas into Kenya because Kenya has such a wonderful climate. The United Nations is sending 600 people here, and let's not forget that parts of Africa become greener through climate change. So first, the problem is try to really understand the situation. Don't repeat what other people are telling you. Try to become expert in a certain field. Then you will be frustrated because the others don't believe you, but basically you are going to have a market for yourself, right? So, for example, and I'm coming to, let's say, cooperation to, because your question goes into the direction, what can we do in future? Now, we are having cooperation, and we have to have more cooperation because this world is becoming a village. I mean, there's so many scientists from different continents working together on specific questions, like, for example, in medicine. Every lab has their speciality. We in Austria, we are not the greatest, but at the same time, we have some areas where we are really, really good, where we specialize, and where we can produce articles that are disruptive, that bring something new to science. When it comes to personal careers, the wrong question is, how do I get a scholarship? Never ask that question, because I would just not talk to you. The question is, how can I pursue what I have in mind? That is, set a goal, look what you are interested in, where is inner fire in that, and then see which areas are asked for. For example, I just give you a few examples. A friend of mine is a psychologist in a prison, and she doesn't work as a psychologist, she works as a prison ward. And you know, being in a prison is, first of all, what? Boring, right? So she as a prison ward has nothing to do except wait that the day is over, except if there is somebody who has taken drugs, there's an emergency, she calls the ambulance, blah, blah, blah. So she has time, right? And she studied psychology, so she's sitting in her box, but she's very interested, so she reads articles and so on. And there are some pedophiles in that prison. And she talks to them, yeah. Okay, now, one day, there's a conference in Germany, and she asks her bosses whether she's allowed to attend that conference on criminology, pedophilia. There are very few on that one. So she goes there and asks 2 or 3 questions. And the guys on the podium find out, somebody who asks such kind of questions knows something. Goes to her, asks her, would you mind presenting in my seminar next semester? And she says, well, gladly. In the end, she was brought from one place to the next and was considered an expert in that area. Why? Because she has found something where very few people are interested in. It's just it's bad, and she's still a prison ward, by the way. What are you doing for a living? And I said, well, I'm quality manager in an IT company. I said, wow, that's not much about biology. And he told me, you know, the market for snail expert is not that big, but I learned how to solve problems rationally at the university, and that's what I'm doing the whole day. So actually, whatever you learned is going to be useful for what you are doing later. But try to find something where you are good at and where you have a place in the market. And this is where I would encourage you. Look for where you want to go. One of the advices I can give as somebody who has counseled a lot of students is take a paper, don't need to show it to anybody, me in 5 years. Me in 5 years. And formulate it in a way, not I will be, but I know French. I have a lot of friends. I have done good presentations in this and that area. And then, this works in you. We know from science, again, students who do that have a lower chance to drop out and a higher chance to get good grades. The mechanism is probably that you have in your back of your head, you know why you are cramming things instead of going party, right? So that's what I can give you for your lives. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you very much. I want us to appreciate, and that's the end of our session in the interest of time. However, I want us to appreciate all the speakers in the Kenyan legacy way. If I say Kenyan legacy way, I think the Daystarians understand this. This is the Vice Chancellor's clap, and we go moja, mbili, tatu, asanteni. Thank you very much for coming to speaking to us, and may God bless you even as you continue to engage. Those claps ended abruptly. You are supposed to continue clapping until I say funga, fungua. Let's start again. Moja, mbili. Thank you very much for coming, educating, sharing. We are so delighted as Daystar University. Funga, fungua. And that is the legacy we got from our first president, second president, Daniel Arap Moi, now who is the late, but we still use it. We are coming closely to the close of this session. However, I want to welcome, and I think, Winnie, I don't know if you're the one here, the gifting. I want to ask Professor Moreithi to come on stage. I also want to ask Associate Dean, Dr. Mwasia, to come on stage. And those in charge of the gifting, please also be ready with the gifting. I want to ask Ambassador, Dr. Christian Fulner, and Professor Sylvia Krissinger, as well as Professor Francis, to come on the stage. We are going to receive some of the Daystar hospitality. And the first one I'll ask is Professor Moreithi to give the first gift to the ambassador. Professor Moreithi will be giving the first token of appreciation to the ambassador. Dr. Mwasia can help here. Yes. So the first gift, you want to give it to Professor Moreithi, then hands over to the ambassador, and we clap as that happens. Then we have a moment of appreciation and a photo session. Stick to the handshake until the photo session ends. Thank you. And you continue clapping until we are done with the ambassador. Thank you very much, Professor. The next one, I also want to ask Professor Moreithi to give that to Professor Sylvia Krissinger from University of Vienna. And we are so delighted to have you here. Thank you very much. And the last one, I'll ask Dr. Mwasia to give it to Professor Francis Onditi. Let us appreciate as Daystar. Indeed, they have done an amazing job to bring this tour of duty exit lecture. We are the ones who have benefited a lot. And now we can have a group photo for all those members in the group. Thank you so much. And Professor Mwasia, of course, representing the school. Ian is doing his magic. You just have to wait until he's done with the magic. And then, of course, Beatrice, you should be getting ready to come and give us your vote of thanks. Okay, we can appreciate them even as they finish that session. Thank you very much. And I want to call on stage Faith Beatrice. She is our student president, Daystar University, for the vote of thanks. And very quickly after that, Dr. Mansi will give us a closing prayer. And as Dr. Mansi walks on stage, the choir should be aligning, because then we transition in that order. Dr. Ndirangu, I've been informed is Dr. Ndirangu that is going to do the closing prayer. And Elizabeth, Beatrice.
Thank you so much. Distinguished Ambassador, His Excellency Christian Fellner, members of the Ambassador's delegation, our DVC, ARSA, Professor Samuel Moreithi, deans, faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Faith Beatrice, the president, Daystar University Students Association. I really want to appreciate, and it is my heartfelt appreciation to His Excellency Christian Fellner for honoring us with your presence here in Daystar University. By you sharing your diplomatic journey is a great thing and a great experience to us, and also a learning platform. I also want to appreciate the Dean of Students and also appreciate School of Arts and Social Sciences, Associate Dean, and the faculty members who were involved in this planning, more so Dr. Lona and Mwalimu Abigail Munyao. We really appreciate, and they really did an amazing job. And on that, I just want to acknowledge Dr. Winnie Chemgorem. Next time when I'm planning any corporate event, I have to consult her. In your organization, I was really amazed. Everything was followed in detail, and I really appreciate. To the Dupisa chairperson, Dalmas Bukasu, he calls himself His Excellency. That was a good work. You've made all this possible. And also to our Congress, Rehema, Audrey, and Laban. This one was a great one. Your contributions did not go unnoticed. You are the ones who have made this one possible, from making sure there's transport from Athi River to Nairobi, and also making the students know about the event. It is my great honor, and I really appreciate the media personalities here, not forgetting you, Dr. Radoli. I'm jealous of her because the way she was just coming and she knows everything about every guest, and I'm like, when did you do that? I thought we were all planning this together, and we didn't see you planning all that. I really want to appreciate also the choir for your amazing songs. Give them a round of applause. And the students who are able to attend here, really appreciate your presence. You're the ones who actually make this convergence important. And as we go home, may we put everything we've learned into practice. May we also be ambassadors and professors to Some, to the library, to Fanye PBL, as Professor Samuel Muridi says. And lastly, may God bless you all. May God bless Daystar, and may God continue blessing our partnerships. Asanteni.
Thank you very much. That is Madam Presida, if we allow, as your generation would call you. However, the last person you will hear speaking on stage will be Dr. Ndirangu with a word of prayer, and as she does, choir, please, you'll take over. I want to thank you for giving me the honor to be your MC today. My name is Dr. Lydia Radoli from the School of Communication, Director, Open Distance Electronic Learning. Asanteni.
Thank you. Let's pray. Our Father and our God, we bless you this afternoon. We are grateful, Lord, you started with us in the morning. We invited you, Lord, in this event. We have experienced you. We have experienced your presence. We have experienced your wisdom in everything that we've had today. We give all the glory and honor back to you. Even as we pray for our speakers as they leave this place, my God, that your grace will accompany them to the next place where they're going, that my Father, you will protect them, you will shield them, and we appreciate everything that has taken place today by your wisdom that is profitable to direct. So we pray that wisdom which we've gained today, we'll be able to apply it even in our daily lives. So we bless you, we honor you. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Announcement, as I said, the last speaker, but we are guided that after this, you're going to all have a group photo at the stairs with our guest, and everyone is invited in that group photo. Corporate Affairs will be leading us. Then after that, School of Arts, Social Sciences will guide us on how lunch will be served. And now, choir, this is your moment to excel.
Very strong music culture. It says, welcome, Holy Spirit. Yes, yes. So well. When you talk and you know, I'm telling you, Austria has a very strong culture. And there's something we can explore from our music department. I'm glad they brought the choir under the School of Mini Arts. So yeah, you can see now it's really working very well. Congratulations, bro. Unajua Mungu ndiye anaona kazi unayofanya.
Thank you. Let us appreciate the choir even as we exit. Let us appreciate the choir. You make us very proud. I know you are at the national competition this year, next year, every year. Dr. Mwasa, you can lead our guest house. Everyone else, you are invited for the group photo at the stairs of the auditorium. Thank you very much.